Hello and welcome to the Pre-Chiro Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, and today we're making a professional chiropractor connection out in Texas with Denisa Weber. Denisa, can you get us started and just kind of share and reflect on basically where you're coming to us from, introduce yourself, but also reflect on that moment in life when you decided you wanted to become a chiropractor, what it was that attracted you to this path?
Absolutely. Um, Currently, yes, I'm practicing out in Dallas, Texas. My practice is Serving Life Chiropractic. We've been practicing for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated from Parker in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So, been a journey. It's been a journey.
Yeah.
What led me into chiropractic was I'm an exercise physiologist, but my background is in kinesiology. I worked in cardiac rehab in a hospital for about 3.5 years. I was in inpatient and outpatient cardiac rehab, working with bypass patients, stroke victims, and just doing all the rehab that it takes to get back going, transplants, you name it. I will say, like, my background with chiropractic originally started when I was younger. I was a competitive gymnast and eventually also cheered for the National Cheerleading Association. So I landed myself in this profession in a certain way, shape, and form through injury and all that kind of stuff. And I do remember a female chiropractor who was able to help me because my parents did throw a Hail Mary after we went to everyone. And she was the only person that could help me get back into my sport. So, very grateful for that experience, but I think that kind of planted the seed for what was to come. Um, I went into cardiac rehab due to my dad having a TIA when I was a junior, and a kind of a journey of the wounded healer was to go into that path and wanting to help people in that situation. And what kind of landed in the kind of a pivotal moment was basically not wanting to be on that side of healthcare. Or really just watching people come in with a sack full of medications, and basically zombies on a treadmill is not definitely not where I wanted to be. But I did enjoy being around people. One of my favorite patients at that time was she has since passed away, but she was so sweet and so critical. In the words that she said to me was, "You sound a lot like my chiropractor." And so that kind of I was already exploring what I would like to do, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. And so I looked into it and toured two chiropractic colleges in Texas, picked Parker, and set up shop.
And can you kind of describe that moment in life, like having had that professional experience, you weren't like fresh out of college, how that maybe changed the way you approached entering into chiropractic school and really just acclimating to this path of like, okay, I'm going to become a chiropractor. How did you orient yourself within that path? And like maybe when you got to school, what were some surprises you encountered or challenges you had to overcome, or just any highlights that stick out to you when you were first starting on this path?
Yeah, going into chiropractic school, I mean, there were a lot of people. There were some people that were fresh out of either undergrad. Some were not even in undergrad. They just completed credits to be there. So there was, kind of like I thought that this was a postdoctoral program, which I mean, it kind of technically is. However, I didn't know. I came with going in. I was in a working facility, like I was in the medical, profession basically, or working alongside them, and learning some of the stuff that we were learning. While it was really good and great, I knew that the approach of chiropractic was different, and so I found it interesting that there was a lot of placating towards being accepted by medicine when I was there kind of for something that was a little different, and the approach being different, but having to go through the whole rigmarole of needing to know all these things that clearly there are deficiencies um, in that paradigm of health, or sickness care, if you will. And then seeing, like, and also being kind of a bridge there, being saying, like, I see where medicine is needed. I see where the medical profession is needed. However, I'm not here to be part of that conglomerate. So I wanted to be towards and going towards something that's a little more inside out approach versus the outside in, it hits the fan, save me situation.
Absolutely. And if you were like I guess, a guidance counselor that was trying to just support a student who was trying to decide, there's one student that's trying to decide on what's the best, most aligned path for themselves, and maybe just helping differentiate chiropractic or at least just provide a presence of chiropractic in this conversation. And then there's the student who just got to chiropractic school who has maybe a little bit of exposure but not understanding of the depths. Like, can you maybe speak to those two students and just help give some of your insights, or provide some insights as to what you find to be the most relevant or valuable thing that they could do to take a couple steps forward on their path and journey?
So to clarify, which two students are we talking about again?
One student doesn't really even consider chiropractic. We're helping position chiropractic as a possible option for them, or just helping differentiate it like you just were doing with the whole inside out versus outside in approach. And then the second student has decided they're going to become a chiropractor, but they don't really know fully what they're getting themselves into. And we're just trying to help continue to build context for what's available to them. And maybe you could just speak based on your experience as well, just like how you navigated your path to becoming a chiropractor.
Yeah, I think that there are certain intentional moments that are presented to us, in our own unique journeys that spark curiosity and spark questions. And so I will say, like, what kind of sparked my path is going to be different than what sparks another person's path, even though we may land in the same situation or land in the same understanding. So it's just approaching it with curiosity. But what I love about chiropractic, and what always sparked my curiosity, was more about, I loved the fact that you don't need to know everything. I did love the fact that there is an honoring of a system that is so complex, but yet so simple. And that what we do is work with the system and allow it to flourish. And for whatever reason, it heals itself. And so while it's really cool to get into the nerdy stuff, and I love my colleagues that can really speak to that lane on stages and give us more context as to like the nitty gritty of everything. I also love the simplicity of being able to clear a nervous system and allow that system to regulate all other systems. And then from there, the body flourishes. And so whatever that looks like for a system or for a person. And so to learn more about that and to learn the understanding of that, it's just more about giving innate intelligence the stage, giving, what the creator has created its moment. And so as complex as we make yet health could be, or the assumption that we know everything, is kind of like a little dangerous place to be. But that's why it's like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't. And I do respect those that approach it with learners constantly learning, constantly wanting to learn more, but also giving credence to, what, no matter what I learn, I will always be in awe of this thing. And so maybe that's it. Maybe that's just more of like, I like to just be in awe of what has been created. And that's the path and the journey. So I'm a prenatal and pediatric specific chiropractor. We do a lot of neurological based chiropractic in our office. And I would say that's about 60% of our office. And so we get to basically witness this in the lives of people day in, day out, and remind them what their system's designed to do. And what's been such a gift about chiropractic is you're basically equipping people with something they already know about themselves, but somebody has not given it credit. And so to say, like, your system is intelligent, knows what to do, let's support that, versus I have all the answers, you need to plug and chug this thing, and we need to silence it, or silence the symptom. So medicine has its place, but like, people are searching for different solutions. And I haven't seen that more than I have in the last 3 years.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate the depth of that answer. So just to keep building context for you, this is like a conversation that is meant to be a resource for pre-chiropractic students. Never before has there really been a structure provided for pre-chiropractic studies to function fully and fully commit to study chiropractic before they even get to chiropractic school. So in the second stage of this pre-chiropractic studies, I broke Nate up into inner state, which is a scientist, thinker, artist, teacher, entrepreneur. And I'm just wondering if you could reflect on the types of skills that you've been able to develop within yourself and how you express yourself as a chiropractor through those lenses of the science, philosophy, art, business, communication. It could be one of them. It doesn't have to be all of them, but just maybe just sharing some insights into like who you are as a chiropractor for other people and what it is that you do that requires a lot of training and skill set development.
Mm-hmm. So my big lane is communication. So a lot of what I do is break down complex things into simplistic, understandable concepts for parents on the daily basis. So, and a lot of people like to approach, again, like I said, health in a complex way, when really we just break it down into simplistic steps. So I even teach chiropractors on how to do this inside practices, and it's called the Conversation Lab, because really our communication is just conversations that are repeated over and over again, but they're organic. So it's just now knowing how to lead people to their own understanding and their own answers. So honoring that in its communication. I used to do intake in cardiac rehab, and so you're constantly having to sit across the table with people, understand where they come from, be able to see through their lens, and then be able to offer a solution and be able to say how this is going to meet their needs. And this is like basically bridging the gap and saying, this is where we step in. This is what it can create. Excited for what's ahead. And so that's what I did. I think a lot of our chiropractors, I know this is pre-chiropractic, but sometimes we get so in our heads that it's hard to speak non-chiro speak to people, and then they go on a rabbit trail. And so it's good for us to realize like we're human first, and then and also chiropractic is about connection and connecting people to themselves, but then also connecting them to like the care that they need. And so when you're sitting across from people, you are connecting with another human, and then the adjustment is the added piece. But if you can't communicate well, they're never going to be on your table. So that's the part, is like we can have the skill set of hands and we can in the heart, but if we cannot communicate it, then we're left with our own skill set. So anyway, but that's what I would speak to, is just like being able to communicate chiropractic the same way you would communicate your favorite sports at a sports bar with a friend.
Yeah, I'm curious if you can keep unpacking the conversation lab, the types of conversations that I guess chiropractors have, and how you help chiropractors prepare themselves to have these organic conversations in natural ways, but with a little bit of training behind the scenes to like kind of know which direction you can take people, and maybe you meet them where they're at and then you bring them to you, or maybe you invite them to come into your world of thinking. And I'm just curious how you work with chiropractors and what the Conversation Lab is doing to kind of train chiropractors on communication.
Yeah, it's about removing the subluxation of our own heads, basically reminding ourselves of how to communicate over again, but and not to be so in our head. So a good thing, either you're so in your heart or you're so in your head. And once we can bring the two together, it's really easy, and you can find your sweet spot. So that's the point of the Conversation Lab, is so you can leverage your communication, and not only just leveraging your communication, your specifically authentic communication, because that's where people can pick up on the resonance. If it's not yours, then, and you're adopting somebody else's communication and language, then people can pick up on that. So, but maybe leveraging that. And then obviously your communication is also your brand. So it's going to come out in your social media. It's going to come out in your, what you say with people should be how you speak to people everywhere else, on your branding, your content, you name it. But for chiropractors, it's basically saying like, hey, we want to meet them where they're at. And if you can imagine them on an alphabet, and they are at the understanding of the letter A of chiropractic, and we are at Z, the goal is not to get them from A to Z in one conversation. So some people want to come to the table and think that they need to have the full understanding of chiropractic the way they have it at the end of 3 years. And that is so not the case. Like some people in here cannot tell us, they just know that we care about them and that we provide results for them and that they're reminded that their system does a lot for them. So I don't need them to understand the full chiropractic philosophy in order to receive care in our office. And then also trickling, it takes the weight of communication off the shoulders and feeling as if some chiropractors feel rejected personally if people don't move forward. Or they feel like they don't fully understand it in one conversation. And it's like, that's not supposed to be the weight in which you carry in a conversation. So yes, it's about meeting people where they're at and then saying, have you considered moving in this direction, offering what we offer, and then obviously speaking in their value lane. So you have to connect to their values and then make them curious about what can be created moving forward. And then you're moving them from A to B, not from A to Z, not from A to G. As you go along, table talk, rapport, progress exams, like all those kinds of things, like there's increased depth, not only in their understanding, but there's more depth in the relationship between you and that person. And it's built off of trust. And I'm more willing to listen to people I trust versus those that I don't know. So, that's the whole point of care and consistent care, is that someone's overseeing it. Yes. But also you're getting those reps in with that person.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, stage 3 is the apprentice, but a lot of what you just described there is like taking care of people and what that dynamic looks like and feels like as a chiropractor. Because I'm inviting pre-chiropractic students to try and go to like maybe 10 different offices and get adjusted by different chiropractors and observe different types of clinical models. You had mentioned pediatric prenatal chiropractor is the style of practice that you've developed, or the skill sets that you developed and the people you want to work with. Can you maybe talk about the unique needs of these populations and how you kind of serve these two groups differently as a chiropractor, but obviously with maybe the same approach, but just in a different way?
Yeah. Well, first off, to change the trajectory of health for a generation is to start with children. And before to start with children, you have to start with pregnancy or fertility or preconception. So it's like, that's why, like, if you want to impact a child's health, you need to get ahead of the wave and go back into where do they originate from. So that's why taking care of the mother, taking care of her nervous system, balancing it out, encouraging her to know more parasympathetic ways to take care of her nervous system, allowing there to be decreased intrauterine constraint, as far as like Webster technique, that's part of prenatal chiropractic. But it's more than just like getting ligaments loose and making sure that the baby's in the right position. Yes, it helps with babies being head down and making sure the exit strategy is as open as possible. So there's minimum, I would say, interventions within labor and delivery. And that's kind of the goal, is for these children not to be interfered with, unless it's completely and absolutely necessary. But that's not how the hospital system is built, was with labor and delivery. So anyway, we're very much part of the birth network. I used to be a doula, so I got to know very much about the whole prenatal realm and how to support women in labor, before labor, through chiropractic, but also through a doula's lens as well, and be able to partner with midwives and all that kind of stuff. So knowing that, obviously you're decreasing, obviously their comfort levels are increased during their while they're carrying throughout pregnancy, but also you are diminishing intrauterine constraint, allowing the baby to get the real estate it needs inside, and then optimizing its delivery chances during labor. Obviously you're not having as much nerve interference with those labors, and minimizing forceps and vacuum extraction and C-section delivery and all that fun stuff that really starts a really crazy nervous system right out the gate and can create a lot of spinal cord tension for newborns. So, which brings me to pediatrics. And that is, we have a lot of interventions in labor and delivery. And so therefore, a lot of these nervous systems are starting out very on high alert. They've had chemical load. They've had maybe potentially physical distress, which is, also a mental and emotional stressor. And some of their nervous systems, all they can do is allow you to hear them, which is if they're not doing eat, sleep, poop, snuggle, repeat, and doing that well, and it's not well oiled, then something's interfering with their system and how it's operating, because they should be able to do sleep, basically parasympathetic activity of rest and digest very well. So if we are not doing this well, something's up with that nervous system. And then thankfully we have technology in our office that shows us to what degree, where it's at. And then that way we can notify a primary pattern and be able to unwind that tension as quickly as possible.
Very well said. Wow. So yeah, that's super helpful. You could imagine a high school or college student or a career changer who's interested in helping these populations, and to hear you share the insights of like what you're helping them with, how you're helping them, and the whole objective, which is to minimize nervous system interference, is like really helpful, I think, for any incoming chiropractic student. I'm curious if you have any advice for students. So stage 4 is to start your own pre-chiro club, and we're kind of drawing on that parallel experience of starting your own practice in the real world. Can you maybe just share any recommendations on like how to start a pre-chiro club on your college campus, and I guess how to build a message that will be relatable to the fellow students that you're trying to, let's just say, market to and attract into your club, and also maybe ways that you can make it very chiropractic centered, the focus of the club and how the club functions. I'm just throwing new ideas out here to you, so I appreciate you just kind of rocking with me here.
Yeah, not too sure. I mean, I can give you what I would think on the fly. Who I would ask is like Brooks Hill, who did and created the pre-chiro club at Texas A&M, which is, I'm an Aggie. So I remember seeing that there, and I was like, well, if that wasn't there, that was not there when I was there. So would have loved it. And I wonder, would I have listened to the lens of, wanting to create a chiropractic practice? I don't know. I don't know necessarily if that's where I would have gone. But I would, things that I would, most attract people to this profession is more of like, natural ways to stay well, or, working with the system, maybe like not, optimizing performance in the body, not just for athletes, but just like optimizing efficiency and performance in any individual, whether they're pregnant, baby, toddler, or athlete, or grandparent. I mean, everyone can benefit off of that, and that's going to create health benefits no matter where you are at in the spectrum. So I think that's kind of where I would go if you're looking for different solutions or being on a different side of healthcare. So, and I would be like health optimization, not health mitigation or sickness mitigation. So if you want to be on sickness care, this is healthcare. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's the best answer I could give you on that.
No, I appreciate it. And the 5th stage is Capstone Independent Study Project. I'm just wondering if you could imagine a 3 to 6 month creative project that any student can go on this journey of exploring a particular topic that maybe interests them with something that's relevant to chiropractic. And maybe it ends up in like a tri-board presentation or a term paper or a TikTok video series, or something that represents a creative self-expression of where they're at. Do you have anything that comes to mind for you that if you could maybe go back and have a 3 to 6 month period of time before you went to chiropractic school that you believe might have been beneficial to you? Just curious.
Like learning, or
like just, when you get to the last semester of college, a lot of the times you have the ability to study anything you want. And in the effort to create pre-chiropractic as like a field of study, I think we need more like creative prompts of like, go look at 5 different offices and draw on the commonalities of these 5 different pregnancy and pediatric offices, specifically within the topic or context of one thing. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah, I mean, I would explore chiropractic offices all over the place. I mean, that's what I did. I didn't do as many as I probably would love to have. I think I should have done. And that way you're able to see different ways of practicing. I think, we're all unique individuals, and we all have unique expressions of, what is needed. We're going to attract different people. So finding what works best for you and your, and your style of practice. I think the most, if I get anything from chiropractic students or anything from chiropractors in general, because I've been helping them for over 10 years, is I wish I would have seen it done like this, or I wish I would have seen it. I wish I would have seen more, seen more, like, how are you doing that? And how, no one's really, they may have seen one way and they haven't explored that they can do things differently. And so whether that's a fee structure, whether it's a system, whether it's, the team, the kind of team you have, the space that you can have, with an open adjusting area, or you have closed adjusting areas. Like, it's just good for people to see what is possible. And then that way, if I don't know that there's more colors on my color palette, then I don't know to use them. If I only have primary colors. So once I find out there's pastels and all kinds of different things, then I'm more likely to use them. So that's the same thing. If we only see a certain amount, it's hard for me to get creative and utilize the full palette. So that's more Chiro-centric, I will say. But as far as like pre-Chiro, for me as a person who was very, like, my eyes were open to the birth world when I was a chiropractic student. And I was like, whoa, like, I thought I was going to work with athletes. No, yes, I do work with athletes, but no, like, my calling ended up being pulled and dragged into this like prenatal land. And I would have loved to have learned more from midwives like Ina May Gaskin. I would have loved to have been in Asheville, where she, or like in North Carolina, where she had it's called, what was it called? Oh, I can't remember.
The farm.
The farm. Yes, the farm. All the things. I would have been wanting to set up shop at the farm, find out as much as I can, learn from these amazing women, and would have just because I was in all of her books and all those things. And I was like, I wish I could just be there. So that's what I probably would have done.
If you could just kind of humor me with describing the unique maybe diagnostics or analysis that chiropractors take when working with babies or pregnant women, because there's not a lot of clarity in the mind of the listener as to what it looks like, or how maybe you analyze for subluxation, or how you are able to guide somebody through a care plan over an extended period of time. Maybe let's just talk about first, second, and third trimester, or through the baby's first year of life. Can you maybe just unpack a couple of details that people might not be familiar with regarding just how chiropractors care for these populations?
In assessments?
Just in care and being a chiropractor for these types of special populations?
I'll say for one specifically is we are cash-based. We do not do insurance. It is also another piece of the medical puzzle that I don't want to be a part of, and I don't want to assume that we would do that. So that allows us to create and be creative with our ways of fee structure, and in order to allow families to have full care. So that's part of a structure when you talk about caring for people, is having a fee structure that works out for people. We utilize, as far as technology and assessments and stuff like that, we utilize the CLA Insight with I know Dr. David Fletcher has that, but we utilize that allows us to see, thermals, SCMG, heart rate variability. And I will say the heart rate variability and thermals is the clutch key for peds and pediatrics, and just taking care of kids and seeing how is their heart rate variability post really traumatic birth? How is, their nervous system functioning? Where do they have the most nerve tension? And it's really helpful for parents. Even if we're not using it as a diagnostic tool, as I said, we don't diagnose. I don't give CPT codes, never have, never will. If somebody gave me that, still don't know what I'd do with it. but we don't use it as a diagnostic tool as much as we use it as a communication tool. And so if anything, it's for parents to literally see for themselves, I know I'm not making this up. Like there is something going on, and so they get to have some sort of objective measure that allows them to see it. And what's really cool is when you do progress exams, and like we do care plans, and we build these out, and we have progress, like little check-ins that we have specifically laid out along the journey. You're able to see that tension, and like we know, and we can see it, and we communicate and have that dialogue with the parent. Like I notice this tone, I know the tone's changing here. They're able to say, yeah, we're keeping food down more, we're all those things, digestion's up, that's great. But then you're able to get these check-ins, and you say, hey, this is why. This is did you remember how this one was? Like we literally have it printed out next to each other. You're like, look at how this is unwinding. This is awesome. And so it's always good to have like some sort of like objective measure just for a communication standpoint of saying like, hey, this is how it's changing. Because people can tell me how they feel. But as we know in the nervous system, that's only 10% of the communication within the system. So the rest of it, is like that's where we're like, well, I love that technology because it shows me again, like under the hood, what's creating the symptom. So that's how we utilize that, and then how we leverage that and create care plans and check-ins so that people, and then it's obviously creates trust with parents that, someone's checking in on their child, like someone's checking in on them. It's not like you're here forever and ever, amen. Like you can be here forever and ever, amen, as long as you want to take care of your nervous system. Like you can do this. However, we're always going to check in on you and just see what's going on. So it's always helpful for them to know that on the horizon, we will be checking in to see how your system's handling whatever it is you're navigating.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And as we segue to the end of the conversation, I'm just curious. I saw you're going to be speaking at Focus OKC and connecting with the chiropractic community. What is it like that, I guess, drives your passion to support other chiropractors? You said you've been supporting chiropractors for over 10 years. Like, there's a clear need that you see, right, amongst chiropractors. I guess I'm asking the question of like, what is coming up for you as far as like what's really important for you, and where's this passion coming from, or where is your passion going? And then like what are you observing that chiropractors really do need more support with?
So I love to speak on things that I'm passionate about, and I'm very passionate about chiropractic, but I'm passionate about chiropractic being successful. I'm passionate about chiropractic being relevant, and I'm passionate about chiropractic, for lack of a better word, being sexy to the public. It is a awesome, not alternative, awesome critical piece in how people need to be supported in their health. And when you paint that picture, for people, they want a piece. And so I feel like my piece in the chiropractic puzzle is to help people be more magnets and help their practices be more magnetic to attract more people towards them. And so whether that's, helping out people visually with their aesthetics, or allowing their authentic expression to be shown more in their communication. Like it's more of how can we take the above, down, inside out, but also into our own branding and into our own communication, and into, it's not just health above, down, inside out, but how connected can you be in your own way of practice?
Definitely. Crucial. I'm just curious, this pre-chiropractic thing is probably new to you as far as like thinking about a pre-chiropractic sort of program that would be disseminated amongst college students around the country, around the world. What do you think it would do to kind of shift our brand or change the trajectory of our profession to have chiropractic communicated in an authentic and aligned way to college students, in a way where it's inviting them to start to dedicate themselves and commit themselves to train and study and explore the profession, which, as you know, is extremely diverse and full of so much?
I mean, I think it would help even change things within schools, the chiropractic schools, honestly. If the demand is different and it tracks different kinds of people who have seen practices on fire, have had their health impacted positively because of, their interaction and their care that they've received since birth, since a child, or even recent, or maybe the message is what they resonate with. But I feel like then the schools will have to pivot as well. I feel like there probably be different leadership that needs to fit the kind of people that it attracts. So I think that sometimes I don't know. There's some changes that are needed to be made in certain schools, and for the chiropractic profession to continue the way I think the way that Dee Dee and BJ intentionally set it to be. And so, unfortunately, not all schools are run that way. But I think having more people aligned philosophically, but also just on fire about what the impact can be, they're able to see what practice could be like, and then they don't get bogged down necessarily in school just through the studies and the boards and all that kind of stuff. But if you can hold that vision, prior to school and not allow school to give you the vision, then you can carry it out past getting the board certified, getting all the things that you have to get from school. So I'm not downplaying school. I was an adjunct faculty professor at Parker. It's needed and necessary, and hopefully you just have good people within there.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing with us today. Can you kind of just give us some resources where people can connect with you? Any sort of offerings that you are providing for the chiropractic community? Maybe just share where that people can learn more about that.
Sure. My website's drDenisaWeber.com, and you can go to the Conversation Lab and put yourself on the wait list. We do these live, so I don't have a course where you can purchase it because I want to be there to help facilitate. So when they go live, we hunker down and we go through 6 weeks of this stuff. So we have 6 modules, six big pillars, and then we have modules inside those pillars. So I'm relaunching that here soon in the next quarter. So that's coming up on the horizon. But best way to follow, you can follow our practice at Serving Life Chiropractic on Instagram, or you can also follow me at Southern_Chiro on Instagram as well.